Let's set the scene. We are out by a lake or an ocean, and I think it's a lake. And there's cottages. So picture like this little community, little cottages spattered about. And there was also like a restaurant there in this little group of cottages. And I was riding a scooter, like not a motorized scooter, like, you know, just like basic scooter. And I was riding it around the outside patio. It was summer, it was warm out. And so there were a lot of guests dining outside. And I was on this scooter, and there was like ramps and stainless steel rails out back. Really weird, very weird for just like the back of a restaurant. You know, dreams don't make sense. So, I was riding my scooter, and I was very much feeling like, "Oh, I'm such a badass." Like, I definitely had the attitude of like 14, 15-year-old like teenager. And I was riding on these ramps, and I was clearly making a disturbance because I knew that it was weird. It was like the perspective was shifting from me being like the angsty teen, like riding, making a disturbance, to being like the guests and feeling annoyed. So I was like simultaneously like flipping back and forth between those perspectives. Anyway, so that was like the first chunk. And then the second part, I was with some friends, and we were going to our other friend. It's actually a woman I used to work with at Barnes & Noble years ago, Steph. We were like at her cottage, and she was going to give us a tour of it. So we were going inside, and we were walking around, and it was very, very labyrinthy, very maze-like. If you guys are familiar with the Winchester House, it kind of had that kind of a feeling where like a hallway might just be super short and then like all of a sudden go downstairs, or like there's a door that opens to like nowhere, like random windows leading to other rooms in the house. So very, very odd structure. And at some point I got separated from the group because I was lollygagging and I was distracted, and I ended up in the bathroom, which was a very tight space. So tight that it really was like you stepped in, and then like you were like almost, your nose was like touching the shower curtain. But behind the shower, and there was a tub, like a clawfoot tub, there was like a ledge. There was a window and a ledge. And on the ledge there was a bunch of little figurines and soaps, and I was taking them and looking at them and smelling them, and I don't know, just experiencing them. And I realized that I was very far behind from the group, and they didn't care and I didn't care, but I did have the sense that I needed to get back downstairs, so I left. And when I got downstairs, everyone was outside, and the neighboring cabin, or cottage, was on fire. And this particular cottage was one that seemed to be like divided into like 4 little apartments inside, and the top right one, there were little balconies. It was very cute. 2 little balconies, and the right one, the couple who was staying there, it was their area that was caught on fire. And so they were out on the balcony, and they were taking turns just like bringing stuff out and like just throwing it off the balcony. And they didn't seem super upset, and the people watching didn't seem that upset, and I didn't feel like, oh, so bad, a fire. It was just like, okay, there's a fire, and they'll get out. I felt like weirdly trusting that these people would be fine, and just watching them get rid of their stuff, just like, okay, well, this is like, we'll just toss this out and these things will be saved, and then we'll climb down from the building, and that's that. And it was so nonchalant that, like, I noticed that my boss, Jim, was walking like down the path that's like goes by the cottages and leads to the lake. And so I just left this burning cottage and I went over to him and he was like, "Hey, we're all gonna go down and watch the sunset. You should come." And I looked through the trees and I could see just like the most brilliant orange and pink. And it was so bright. It was like dampened, dimmed, whatever, because of the trees, but I don't know. It was beautiful. And but I told him, I actually don't know if I replied to him. I ended up just walking away, and there was a barn. And I walked to this barn, and it was like, okay, so you know how in a barn there's like the part that you walk through, you can like walk through the whole barn. But then there's also like, you know, the parts where like the animals are, or like the hay is stored or food, whatever. So by this point, like, even though, I mean, not a lot of time has passed, it's gotten very, very dark. And I go into this barn and it's like almost pitch black, if not pitch black. And I see a puddle on the ground, which also doesn't make sense because it's like a roofed barn. So the fact that my brain was like, oh, it rained earlier, that's why there's a puddle, is like dream brain logic. But anyway, in the puddle was a reflection of either the sunset or the night sky. And the colors in this puddle were like unreal. I mean, every color, every bright color you could imagine. And it looked, I mean, like it was so dimensional and complex and just like eternal, universal. And I wanted to take a picture of this reflection. This was like I wanted to get the most perfect picture of this perfect image. And I could hear that there were kids in the barn, and at this point, one of the kids comes and is like getting in my way, like to the point where I like cannot get this picture without this kid in the shot. Oh, and I was so frustrated. It's like no matter what I did, and I didn't want to just shove him away. So I'm trying to like move around him to get this ideal image. And then as soon as that goes away, I notice this girl, and she's maybe like 14. And she's just standing off to the side up against like a wall. Pitch black. The only reason I know she's there is because she's on her phone. Like, she's not on it because the screen isn't lit up, but she's holding it. And the little light, you know, that like turns on and off if you have like a message or a notification of some sort. I could see that. And it scared me in my dream when I realized she had just been standing there this entire time. And as soon as I knew she was there, like, she walked away. Super creepy. Very, very scary. Like, in my dream, I remember my stomach, like, flipped. Anyway, so she goes away. I can turn my attention back to the puddle, and I get a picture, and it's perfect, and I'm so happy. And then I decide I want to see the reality instead of just the reflection. So I walk all the way through the barn, and I go outside, and it's just, you know, think like prairie land. So just like nothing's really in the way. There's one tree, one big tree next to me, but it doesn't matter because the whole sky is colorful against pitch black. It looks like there's like nebulas and constellations, and I still don't know if it's a sunset or if it's the universe, but it's like, oh my God, I just stared at it. And there were other people there too, like the kids that had been in the barn, and then other adults, and like, I mean, everybody. so many people were around there, and it was pure silence. We were all just staring at the sky. And then I woke up. But I hope I never forget that dream.